Hey everyone, I'm Ehsan Kiani from Redmorph. In this video, I want to answer a common question. How can we project an image or decal in Substance Painter without UV seams breaking the projection? We'll go through a few different solutions, so let's jump in. For this example, I'll be using my Tattoo Master tool to place a tattoo on the model. As you can see, when the projection mode is set to UV projection, the image gets cut off along the UV seams. The first solution is switching to Triplanar Projection. I'll position the tattoo where I want it on the model. Let's increase the hardness to remove the soft fading. Then rotate it slightly to reveal the hidden parts. You can also use the shortcuts W for move, E for rotate, and R for scale. Let's move it in Z-axis to see less repeated image around the main image we positioned it. Now I'm gonna add a black mask to the tattoo layer. Increase the hardness. I already did that, but it is set to a low value by default, and I paint in white to reveal only the area I need. If you accidentally paint somewhere wrong, just press X to switch the brush color to black and mask it out again. Okay, let me quickly tweak some of the tool settings to make the tattoo look more natural. And that's the first method. Well, let's go over the second method. This time I'm gonna use Planar Projection. It's quite similar to the first method, but this method really depends on the surface you are projecting onto. It works fine on relatively flat areas. But on curved or cylindrical parts, the projection won't look correct. Now the third method, and in my opinion the most useful one. It is warp projection. Just like before, I placed the tattoo on the surface. To make sure the entire shape appears correctly, I adjust the projection depth and increase the hardness to remove fading. I'm gonna make it smaller. Now I can enter Edit Vertices mode and manually adjust the projection gauge. I can stretch the shape slightly by moving, rotating, or scaling each vertex individually. Also, this option lets you add more subdivisions in the cage for better control. This gives you much more precision when projecting across UV scenes. I'm gonna reset the subdivisions and start adding vertices wherever I want. With this option you can split the grid, split the cage horizontally or vertically to add vertices wherever you want. For example, for this shape I'm gonna add 4 vertices around the shape to stretch it a bit. Alright, moving to the next method. But before that, let me quickly explain another common question. What if you want to paint manually instead of importing an image and still have the procedural effect applied in real time? For that to work, your effect layer must not have any pre-existing transforms. That means no UV transform adjustments inside Substance Painter tools, and no transformations or warp changes inside the Procedural tool layer. As you can see in my tattoo tool, the default scale is set to 0.8 and it needs to be reset to 1 so that the texture fits properly in UV space. Now I'm gonna create a fill layer below the effect layer, turn off all channels and add a white mask. Because my tattoo tool expects a white background with black foreground. So I create a white mask and paint in black. I add a paint layer for the mask, then I add an anchor point above the paint layer so I can reference that mask as the input image for the tool. Here I go to Anchor Point tab and choose the anchor point I created. Well, I can start painting. Let's lower the hardness and the brush size. Oops, let me switch the brush color to black. Now you see that the procedural effect is applied in real time as I paint. Remember, if your system is under heavy pressure during painting, you can hold Alt and click the mask to isolate it in the viewport, which makes painting much lighter. Now let's go over to the fourth method, which is using a stencil. I select the stencil tool, load my image, position it and paint directly onto the surface. The downside here is that UV seams can be visible. Now let's answer another frequently asked question. How can you export just the tattoo as a transparent PNG? First, switch the shader to PBR Metal Rough with alpha blending. Then enable the opacity channel in the texture set settings. And enable it for the tattoo layer. Create a layer underneath and set its opacity to 0 so the body becomes invisible. As I said before, Stencil Projection shows scenes, so I'll use one of the other projection results. Let's bring this layer down and turn on the opacity of this tattoo. As you can see, the skin is also visible around the reddish area of the tattoo, but we only want the tattoo itself. That's because the mask channel of the tattoo layer is enabled. We need to disable it and having only the opacity channel of the tattoo layer. To fix that, go to channel mapping and set the opacity to mask. Then set the mask to no alpha, which means disabling the mask. As the opacity of the layer below is set to 0, now the only visible opacity comes from the tattoo mask. If that sounds confusing, it's totally normal. Now let's export. In the Export Texture window, select only the texture set that contains the tattoo. In the Output Templates tab, click the plus button and create a new template. Set it to RGB plus A, assign base color to RGB and opacity to alpha. Go back to settings, select your template and output location and export. And here's the result, a clean tattoo texture with transparency, without any skin color baked in. If you compare it to a version exported with the skin included, you'll see why that method is important, especially if you want to reuse the tattoo on different skin color tones. If you're interested in creating realistic skin tattoos, you can check out my tattoo master tool linked in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.